Ever wonder if your favorite monuments in Assassin's Creed Odyssey are real? Well, let's get an art historian's take. Alright, welcome to today's take. We're going to be looking at the portico that the Athenians put up at Delphi. Now, this particular portico is actually put up in a really important space. It is right on the sacred way, so you had to pass it as you were going up to the temple. And it actually backed up to the polygonal wall. And the polygonal wall was actually a supporting wall that actually helped to support the foundations of the temple. And so in this, you would really have to go past this every single time you went up to the temple. That makes this building really important. Now, you would think a building like this that was so important would be a building we would actually know a lot more about. Well, unfortunately, we just don't. And the thing is that we have a lot of contradictory information about this particular structure. So let's take a look at what we have and what we know and what we don't know. So things that we're really unsure of. Exactly when the building was built and exactly what was dedicated in the building when it was actually consecrated. So let's take a look at some options here. So one thing we can look at is Herodotus. Now Herodotus actually writes about the Persian Wars, and so we actually get a tremendous amount of information about what happened, or at least what the Greeks are going to tell us happened. So as Xerxes is actually trying to get over to Greece, he has to cross the Hellespont. This is a major body of water, and it's going to be very, very difficult to cross. He really has to think of a way to innovate in order to get across it, so he doesn't have to march his troops so far out of the way in order to actually get over to Europe. What he decides to do is to actually put up a floating bridge to cross the Hellespont and get all of his troops and the horses and the carts and everything he's going to need for this invasion over to Europe. That was a monumental challenge and an unbelievable feat. We can't really give it to Xerxes on this one. Now, what we are told is that after the war is over, and of course the Persians are defeated, the Athenians and some other Greeks decide they're going to go look for the remains of this bridge. When they get there, the bridge is in pretty bad shape, and so most of the Greeks decide to just go ahead and head home. Herodotus tells us, however, that the Athenians are not going to do that. The Athenians actually want to take the time to dismantle what is left over of this bridge and actually take it back to dedicate it in different sanctuaries. Now, is that story that a lot of scholars have actually pointed to and said, the building must have been built shortly after the Persian Wars, and the Athenians must have dedicated the items that they took from the Persians there. Now, if that is true, that is monumentally important because Xerxes absolutely decimated Athens. He had leveled all of the temples on the top of the Acropolis, and the Athenians were really hurting at that point. So if the Athenians did indeed build this building in Delphi right after war, that is a monumental statement on the part of the Athenians, that they're not going to back down and that they're a resilient people. It could also be a show of piety, that they're going to dedicate these particular objects in a sanctuary like Delphi. But let's be honest, it's also a show to the rest of the Greeks saying, hey, the Persians might have dealt us a really tough blow, but we want everyone in Greece to know that we're going to rise up to the challenge. And even though our city is in ruins, we're going to dedicate these objects in a beautiful building in an incredibly public place. Let's be honest, they're showing off to the rest of the Greeks. All right, that's all I have for you guys today. I hope you enjoyed this take, and I'll see you guys next week.